I've got a record player that was made in 2014. Now my hair blue, it came out of C6 sort of green. I like vintage dresses when they fall, just to my knees. I pretend I scrape them crying. I've got a record player that was made in 2014. Now my hair blue, it came out of C6 sort of green. I like vintage dresses when they fall, just to my knees. I pretend I scrape them crying. I've got a record player that was made in 2014. Now my hair blue, came out of 6 sort of green. I like vintage dresses when they fall, just to my knees. I pretend I scrape.
Sink-in test, also known as the sink test.
Hi, Dr. William here. We're going to talk about this guy here. This is Shelby. Okay, so he's going to be our model for the day. We're going to get into the sink test. Now, as far as I can tell, the sink test was created by Dr. Lowell Ward. I don't know the backstory behind it, the history, or anything. I just know about, I would say 13 years ago, I noticed that the sink test had a lot of bugs in it. It didn't seem like anybody could agree on the same diagnostics. One guy would do it and he would get a read here, and another practitioner, they would get a different read. And so I kind of saw that as a flaw in the whole approach, and I tried for years to come up with something different. I mixed like muscle testing and AK into it, and I came up with a lot of good things, but it just seems like for the most part, as long as you're doing the sink test correctly, it seems to be the most accurate. The only problem with the sink test is it's very hard for new practitioners to figure out how to do it and do it consistently. And I think that comes from the approach, okay? So, you know, and there's people you'll go and learn this from, and they'll yell at you, and you'll be doing it, and they'll slap you in the hand. And this is all just nonsense because they don't really know how to do it proper themselves. And that's why they are able to articulate it in an educational manner so that they don't have to slap people in the hands or do any of that nonsense. So that's why I thought this is important to correct this, because there's a lot of people trying to use this in the world. And I just see that there's a lot of misinformation, a lot of bad education. Some of it's good, some of it's bad. I just figured out a more natural way to do it, okay? Things that are correct, they are usually much more simple. Things that are incorrect, they are more complicated. Stop it there, okay? All right, so we're back. All right, so the sink test, we gotta find a more natural way to do it, okay? There's a lot of superimposed ideas that I feel go against nature, okay? And that's why it doesn't work consistently from one person to the next. And one person will be very proficient at it, and another person, they'll struggle to get it, and it might take them years. And I think it's just because there's a problem in the education, right? Because they haven't figured out a way to show everybody how to do it correctly, okay? So when it comes to sink test, you just have to understand that there are two holes right below the occiput, not on the occiput, but right below it as you come off, okay? And those two holes are basically just formed from an angle of the neck going up in this direction, and then suddenly an abrupt angle in the other direction, okay? And when you're doing the sink test, as you're affecting basically the reaction of the body to a small amount of pressure, though the angle will change in its level. It might drop one way or drop the other, okay? But you have to get right at that angle where the neck and basically the head starts to come down. You have to put your finger right in that area, okay? It's definitely not in the middle because you have this big ligament there. And so that blocks you from finding that hole. So it's bilateral on both sides, and you have to find that hole, okay? Now you have to put your thumb in there, and what you're gonna do is look at the top of your thumb, and you're gonna try and measure which one is more superior or up and which one is more inferior, down, okay? And that's how you get your diagnostics from this test. Now, since you're using your thumb, of course your thumbs have to be parallel. You don't want to turn them, and you also don't want to rotate them in or outwards. You want them to be flat, kind of like if I put them flat on the wall here. And you also don't want them to be too far apart. They can't be too far apart. You have to get them close together, but not too close because that ligament is there, and so you need to steer clear of that ligament. All right, now there's the important issue that I say about thumb placement, okay? I've heard, different theories about where to put your thumb. Maybe it's supposed to touch the top of the occiput or something like that. Nobody can agree or find where that actually is. And you see people moving their thumbs around, do all kinds of stuff, and that's why there's inaccuracies in the whole test, okay? So what I've devised is a more natural way to find that angle that I talked about, where the neck comes up and the back of the head goes down here, okay? Finding that angle, it's an abrupt pit, okay, or it's a concave, and the concavity has its angle, okay? Where it's at the most abrupt angle, that's where you're gonna place your thumb. Now, nature gives us a couple of clues on how to find that exact angle. Since we're using our thumbs, there's actually a small peak on everyone's thumb. If you look here, right in the middle of this palette of skin on my thumb, that peak right there is the part of the body that we're going to use to find the exact center of those two angles to place our thumb in, okay? Now, a good way to figure that out is I brought a spoon here, okay? Think about there's a hole on both sides that's kind of like this spoon. If you look at the concavity of this spoon, there's going to be a most centered angle where it goes in and it's concave. And what will happen is if you take your thumb and you put that little pointy thing on your thumb at the top here, you'll notice if you go up, it'll stick. But since you have this angle going down, if you go down, it won't stick, it'll actually slide more, okay? If you are too low, you'll go down and it'll stick. But if you go up, it'll slide more. Once that little peak of skin hits the middle, the exact dead center of the concave portion of this spoon, your thumb, if you go up or down, will stick right there in the middle of that hole, basically, okay? So when you go down and then you suddenly get stuck, it's stuck in that hole because the two angles are going like this. Your thumb falls in that angle and suddenly it's stuck and it doesn't move, okay? Does that make sense? So here you could slide down and it'll get stuck. If you slide up here, it'll go here and it'll get stuck. And you can see that little motion that I make. See, I'm moving the spoon. Do you see that? Because I'm stuck right in the middle of it, okay? Now here, I can move it up, but if I go down, my thumb might pull down a little bit, okay? So when you're dead in the middle, you'll feel like it's suction cup basically to your thumb, okay? You're gonna be able to find that bilaterally on both sides of a person's head, okay? Once you get into that correct position where the angles are like this, that part of your thumb is gonna stick there, okay? And when it gets stuck, if you moved it up or down, you would know that you're going out of that angle because it's so apparently stuck right in that hole that it almost suctions to your finger. And that's why I look at this and I see this has a natural kind of ability to find that angle, exactly what I was trying to explain on both sides. Now, the theory about why that works, that's not what this is about. This is just to give you the tools to do this diagnostic much better, okay? And that whole thing about the spoon is this is especially good for people who are new at this. I'm sure people have been doing it for a long time. They may or may not, be able to find that hole. They found it in their own way, but they didn't realize what they were doing. But to someone who just began learning this type of diagnostics, this is going to be your nice tool that you can practice with and figure out how to find the center of a concave object, right? So same thing here in the back of your head. See, I slide down, I'm right there in that hole, and that hole just gets stuck. If I go down like this, now I'm on the neck. If I go up like this, it'll get stuck again. Even you could slide up and it'll get stuck right in that hole. And you can do the same thing on both sides. So the first thing you got to do is just learn how to find the hole. So you want to go one hand at a time, You'll slide down here one hand at a time and then do the other hand, okay? Then the next thing you got to get good at is once you find that hole, make sure your hands are twisted like this. Now, if you're finding that hole with your finger and you realize that your hands are twisted, it's okay just to change the angle and make sure that you're still in the hole, okay? Then you want to look at the top of your fingers. This is really important. Sorry, not your fingers, but your thumbs. Right here at the top, and compare if one is up and one is down. You can't look at the bottom of your thumbs. It'll be inaccurate. You need to look at the top, okay, of that line right above your fingernail here, okay? And that's what you're looking at to see which one is more inferior and which one is more superior, okay? And which one is more, and determine if it's more inferior or superior on the left or on the right, okay? And that's basically what you got to do. Of course, there's more information about what you're trying to find. We'll go over that later, but this is just a lesson about how to find basically where the two angles abruptly change, okay? And that's where you're placing this pointy thing of your thumb, okay? It makes life a lot easier, guys. If you've been doing it some other way or you've heard different lessons about how to do this, it's why this thing is so inaccurate. It's why I thought years ago maybe this is just not the correct way to do it, because I like things that I can do and other people can do and we all can agree on it, okay? And while this might have some issues with some people, maybe they have different kinds of thumbs. I'm sure there's going to be issues with people's thumbs and their anatomy. But for the most part, I feel like this will have a good consensus where every practitioner will be able to find the same thing and get the same results. And it won't be a big, ugly argument like you see with these techniques that are being taught and people are always being criticized for not being able to do it correctly. I think that this solves that pretty much, and if there's any other issues around it, then it's probably anatomical issues like the differences in thumb palates or something like this, and that could happen. But for the most part, getting stuck in the hole is the major thing that you need to do this diagnostic correctly, okay? And other than that, I'm welcome to some other way to find, if you know what this sync test is for, I'm open to other versions of diagnostics that could find these problems even more accurately. Just up until now, this is the best we have, and as far as I know, as far as I can tell, this is the best way to teach it. This whole getting stuck in the whole thing with the apex of the skin on your thumb. Thank you guys for watching. Again, my name is Dr. William London. Hope this was helpful. Bye-bye.
I pretend I scrape them clean. I got a record player that was made in 2014. Now my hair blue, it came out of 66 sort of green. I like vintage dresses when they fall, just fill up my knees. I pretend I scrape them clean.